Many of you do. However, there are so many new people in here who do not. Psalm 66 says, "Come and hear all who love God, and I will tell you what He has done for my soul." You see, our testimony is only as good as how often we tell it. And now, you may come in here on Sundays and think, "Oh yeah, look at him, this guy has it all together, all cleaned up, looking all holy in his collar." But this wasn't always the case, and some might still argue on the holy part. But in my life, there was this 10-year span, at least, where I had a serious drug addiction. Serious. Now, I'm not just talking on the weekends. I'm talking every single day. Every single day, whether I was working or not, especially so. 10 years. I was working in hotel management, and as I was getting close to 30, my health kind of began to deteriorate, because no matter how functional you are, that kind of life, it just can't be maintained. It just can't. And I knew something had to change. Something had to change or else. And so I had made the decision, because I knew it was life or death for me. I was going to remove myself from the madness. I was going to move from Dallas down home to Harlingen, where my mother was. And it was the hardest 2 months that was leading up to it, because there's a huge gap between wanting, deciding, and then doing it. Huge gap. And I had this mountain of fear that just began to rise up in me. And as I climbed this mountain in my life, it got harder. And it got steeper, y'all. The closer I got to the top. And I was ready to make that change, ready to see just what was on the other side. But I was just too scared to do it. I was paralyzed. You see, one of the most majestic creatures in the animal kingdom is the tiger. And so for many years, these big, beautiful creatures, they've kind of puzzled the researchers, because it seems that when tigers hunt, they have this remarkable capacity to cause their prey just to paralyze with fear. And it's a capacity that is unique to them. It's greater than any of the other cats. You see, as a tiger charges towards prey, of course it lets out a deep-seated roar when it comes. Now, you think that'd be enough, right? You think that'd be enough to cause to be like, "I'm out of here." It's enough. But instead, it often freezes, and soon they become tiger food. And they didn't exactly know all the details of it. And so the researchers, they discovered at the turn of the century why you're more likely to freeze. You see, when the tiger roars, it lets out these sound waves that are audible, the ones that are terrifying, like, "Oh my gosh." But it also lets out a sound at a frequency that you can't even hear. But you can feel it. You can feel it. And so as the tiger emerges from the undergrowth, you can see the flashing of those colors, the sound of its roar, and the impact heard, and the sound waves that get felt. And they all combine to make this all-out attack on your senses. The effect is that you're momentarily paralyzed. So that even though you had time to miss the tiger, you're tricked. You are tricked into standing still long enough for the tiger to get you. You see, our fears, they often operate in the same way. It's an all-out assault on our senses, and they paralyze us into inactivity, even when the real threat isn't immediately upon us. And I tell you this because I was ready to make that change. I was ready to go over the mountaintop, yet there I was, paralyzed. Paralyzed. And I didn't know exactly what I would find on the other side. Would there be a tiger? I don't know. Would there be 10 years of repressed emotions flooding in, devastation and hurt, incredible shame, unhappiness, failure? You see, when you're weak and vulnerable, all those things, they might as well be a tiger. What about you? What's going on with you? Is there something that you need, or that you have to walk through or walk to? Something that you're on the doorstep of. Maybe are afraid or just uneasy to walk through or to do. What's your mountain? What's your mountain that you're climbing? Do you know what's on the other side? What are your fears? What are your tigers? Is there a change you need to make? Is God calling you through something that you are unsure and unsteady of? Whatever situation that you are facing right now, are you uncertain of what the outcome will be? You see, this is usually where I say, oh, such as, and like, and so forth, such as, where I give you examples of what that could be. But I'm not going to do that today. Because you already know. You already know. I don't even have to tell you. You already know the difficult road that you either must walk or all are already walking. You know. You know the tiger is real. You know the fear is real. Now, sometimes, though, we don't know if the tiger that we imagined is actually the tiger that's on the other side. Right? And what I mean by that is people, we're really good, right? Like we've been blessed with this imagination, but we imagine, you should probably do it at night, we imagine all the things that could go wrong. Like, oh my gosh, fear this, and fear that, and fear this, and fear that. You think about all those things. And all of those fears keep you paralyzed. They keep you from moving forward. But once you step over the mountaintop, sometimes we realize that the tigers are just kitties. That it's not as bad as you thought. You realize that most of those fears you cooked up never happen. Not all of them. But most of them don't happen. And you just won't know that until you do it. But that's the power of the fear of the unknown. It's very different than the fear of the present. And it can be taxing. It can be cumbersome. It can overwhelming. You know, like the tiger, it can cripple you and stop you in your tracks. And it can keep you from walking the path that you were called to walk. And you know you were called to walk. You see, I remember how paralyzed I was by my fears when it came to make that change. So what does the other side of the mountain look like? Is it as scary as we think? And exactly how do you push through that fear? In other words, how do you tame the tiger? How do you find the courage to actually take that step to go over the top? So, as we step into the gospel today, y'all, there's plenty of fear to be had. Plenty going around. Today we continue the book of Mark. It's chapter 11. And here we find Jesus, we find the disciples, and they're about to enter into what we consider Holy Week. Something, gosh, we fondly enter into. We look forward to it. But Jesus and the disciples, y'all, it was something totally different. What we understand is that when Jesus first said he was going to Jerusalem, the disciples were like, oh, say what? You're going, oh, why are we going there? Remember? They're trying to kill and arrest you there? I don't know about you, but that doesn't sound like a good idea to me, Jesus. But of course they followed their king. Not all. There's a time when many turned their backs and walked away. But they followed their king, hoping that the situation would be different, better by that time. The day before they arrived, in chapter 10, it says, they were on their way to Jerusalem. Jesus was leading the way, and the disciples, they were astonished and they were afraid. Astonished and afraid. So Jesus, he pulls the 12 aside, it says, and he told them what was going to happen. It says, look dudes, we're going to Jerusalem tomorrow. And I gotta tell you, it doesn't look good. It doesn't anyway. I'm going to be delivered over to the chief priests and the teachers of the law, and they're going to condemn me to a violent death. And then they're going to hand me over to the Gentiles, and they're going to mock me and spit on me and flog me and kill me. So get your stuff ready, we leave in the morning. What? Wait, what? I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty scary. Like Zoic, Scooby. Scary. So the reason that they were scared, it wasn't just Jesus. Like, okay, that's going to happen to you. But during that time period, they wouldn't just execute the political uprisers. No, they would execute everyone affiliated with it to ensure their power. So the fear is real. The potential tiger looms, and still, in those moments, they push past those fears. They could have left. They could have left right then and there. But they do not. They do not. They choose to be with Jesus. It's a choice we too have to make. A choice, you see, it's not a one-time event. Sure, you invite him in, and that's so important. But you have to choose him every day. Not just when you lay down your nets, but you got to choose him when you get in the boat. You got to choose him when you're feeding the 5,000. You got to choose him when the times get hard. It has to be a choice that we make every single day. So in today's verses, Jesus and the disciple, they've almost made it to their destination. I bet they were kind of walking slow, like, oh, Jesus, I hurt my ankle. Hold on, we need to stop. But I'm sure they made, we're going to drag on their feet. But they get there, and they make it. And what the scripture tells us is that they are on the Mount of Olives. Now, the way the landscape is laid out, you have Bethany on this side, you have the Mount of Olives, and then you have Jerusalem on this side. And it's about a 2-mile distance between the two. So there they are, right? They've arrived, about to go over the mountain into Jerusalem. And they don't know. They're scared. They're astonished that they're even there. They were afraid of what they would find on the other side. Imprisonment? Would it be torture? Would it be death? But see, the disciples, they weren't the only ones that were scared. We know from the Garden of Gethsemane that Jesus, too, he had fear. Real fear at times. So there they all were. What fate would they be welcomed with? Much like us when we hesitated our mountaintops. But Jesus says some things in this story that can help bring you and I the guidance and comfort that we need to make that leap. The word says, as they prepare to go over, that Jesus pulls the two aside. And they say to him, what do you want us to do now, Jesus? We have to be like that. What do you want me to do? Not tomorrow, but what do you want me to do right now? Because if we add it all up, it's too much. It's one step, one moment at a time. Then Jesus pulls him aside and says, here's what I want you to do. Once you go over to that village ahead, once you go up there, you're going to find this colt tied up in the yard. One that's never been ridden. It's one fit for a king. And I just want you to kind of, just untie it and just bring it back. You want me to carjack a donkey? Yes. No. Just tell him the Lord needs it and that you'll bring it back. Okay, so they go. And sure enough, just as Jesus promised, there was the colt. And they find courage in that. They find courage knowing that no matter how uncertain the future is, that Jesus is always looking ahead. That Jesus is always providing for them and guiding them. So they go, and they bring that colt back. And right before Jesus sits on it, they go, wait. And they take off their cloaks. And they take off their tunics, and they lay it upon the animal for Jesus to sit upon. And this is an important act, especially as they enter into this turmoil. It's a sign of submission, of obedience to the king. But there's also, I think, something so much more intimate and trusting in it. Much like when Prince Jonathan undressed before King David totally. It's the removing of the cloak that's saying, I am willing to be laid bare because I trust your protection that much. That much. Now the disciples, they're the very first to throw their cloaks down on the colt and on the road. And when the others see it, they say, hey, look what's happening. And it starts this chain reaction. And the others, they start laying theirs down as well. And so the procession begins up the mountain. Jesus on the colt and the disciples are on either side of him. Slowly they begin to go over the mountaintop into tiger territory. What would they find? The disciples didn't know what to expect. Would they be yelling, crucify or save? I imagine that as they get to the top, maybe they're shaking, trembling. And then as they do, Jesus searches for them. Searches for their gaze to make eye contact as if to say, relax. Relax. I got this. Trust me. You're under my protection now. Now, peeking on the other side of the mountain that we can do in the story, there's this enormous crowd, an eager crowd, and they are watching the horizon of the Mount of Olives with just electric anticipation. And as soon as they see Jesus riding. And as soon as they see his head come up, they just start cheering. They are so excited. They see it, they go crazy. And it was a beautiful sight for Jesus and the disciples to feel welcomeness, to feel cheeriness, to see the laying of the cloaks continued, and it sparked an entire crowd to lay themselves before him. And it made this path, this cloak, this path, a united path for a humble king. Not only did they cheer, they laid palm branches along the road and they waved them in the air. Oh, hooray, it's Jesus. It's Jesus. Oh, my heavens. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hallelujah. Our Savior, come, save us. Hosanna, our day has come. Save us, save us, save us, save us. And the sound of those cheers, oh, it must have been like music to their ears. Notes to calm their fears. A song, much like a tiger lullaby. You see, this was Jesus' triumphant entry into Holy Week. And it's full of its up and downs to come. You see, even though they had fear, they found courage to push forward in the steps that they knew that they had to take. Today, as you stand facing your mountain, as you stand in the face of all your fears, remember the things in the story that can help you tame the tiger. First thing I want you to realize is that you are not going over that mountain alone. Just like the disciples, you have people near you who are probably just as afraid as you are, who are willing to walk with you. You just have to ask. You have to confide. You have to, because it is essential. And I want you to think about that right now. Who are the people in your life? Who are the people in your life that you can trust? Who are the people in your life that you have not yet confided in, but that you know are waiting unconditionally, without judgment, to be there for you? Who do you know? Who is that? What is it that you need to share with them so that you can get over the mountain? You see, humbly, you have to be willing to lay your cloak down. You have to be willing. You have to be willing to lay yourself to be bare before people and to be bare before God. You see, sometimes the greatest courage that we can have is admitting that we don't have any. But in those moments, we can find, by truly believing that the Word of God says that my grace, it's sufficient for you. We have to lay down our cloaks, and in the story, it makes a path for Christ, right? In our lives, we have to lay down our cloaks, not for us to walk on, not for our path, but for His. We lay down our will so that God's can shape up, no matter how difficult that may be. We might want to go around the mountain, but we have to follow where Jesus calls us to. And we have to remember that this parade, this triumphant entry, it's not ours. We ain't the ones on the donkey. We ain't the ones riding the colt. We aren't the grand marshal. We're not leading. He is. All we have to do is follow. That's it. All we have to do is follow. Jesus is going to take care of the rest. As you begin to move forward like the disciples, if you begin to tremble, make contact with Jesus. Pray. Find steadiness in the reading and the hearing of His Word. Look to Him. Remember, He is always going to provide everything you need on this side of the mountain and on the other side. And if it's all those things that you're thinking, all of the what-ifs that are in your mind right now that plague you, let them go. Let them go. I'm here to tell you that they are not serving you well. There's an Old Testament saying that says God always provides a ram. And it's referring to what I call the non-sacrifice of Isaac. You see, God is always going to provide you a ram. He's always going to provide you a colt. Whatever it is that you can't even foresee that you need, Jesus knows, and He is making provisions for you. Take comfort in knowing that Jesus has knowledge about that other side of the mountain that you don't. That's why He's the Grand Marshal. That's why He is in the colt. He would not call you to cross it if He did not know that you could do it. He wouldn't cross it if He didn't know that you were able. You see, sometimes the walk isn't easy. No mountain ever is. But pray. Encourage one another. And like the disciples, you have to stick together. You have to stick together. Don't allow the wedges of the enemy to keep you apart. You need each other too much for the mountains that you're facing. Make efforts. Make efforts and amends so you can once again be like Acts says, of one heart and of one mind. As we know, this cheerful, jubilant, triumphant entry with everyone, yes, we love you, Jesus, you're the best. We know that will be overcome by darker times. But we have to be like Jesus. We have to celebrate the wins that we get when we get them. You walked 2 miles, woo, celebrate that. You made it 2 days, celebrate that. You pushed through 2 obstacles, celebrate that. You strangled 2 less people at work, celebrate that. It doesn't mean that there's not going to be difficult roads ahead. Of course it's going to be, but you have a king. You have a king who is leading you. You have a king who is supplying you. And you have a group of friends who are willing to walk off a cliff with you, knowing that Jesus is there to catch you both. Celebrate that. Now, I'm not up here to discount how difficult your walk is or how rugged the terrain will be. I understand that it's not always sunny days and cakewalks, that it's not always supportive cheers that we're welcomed with. Even for Jesus, soon the shouts of Hosanna, they'll shift to angry words of crucify. But no matter the case, whichever situation, Jesus is still your grand marshal. Whether you are marching through the valley of the shadow of death or through the green pastures, he still is your greatest tiger tamer and the only one who can lead you through, the Good Shepherd. I know it's difficult. Whatever you're thinking about right now, I know it's difficult. It once was for me when I took my first step. And I often felt like I went over, instead of walking, I was just tumbling, just rolling, like it was like a tragic skiing accident, just going down the hill. But Jesus, he would catch me every time. He would catch me every time. You see, sometimes the Lord calms the storm, but sometimes he lets the storm rage, and he instead calms his child. And that's what we have to remember. Sometimes it's that way. That's what he did for the disciples. That's what he did for me in my tragic skiing accident. I know that if it was not for this church and every single one of you here then and now who keep me on the right path, I would not be the clear-minded, mostly sane, sober man that I am today. Do not let the tigers win. Refuse to be paralyzed anymore. Move forward and remember one of the greatest scriptures. What is it then, shall we say, in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? If God is for us, who can be against us? Would you say that with me? If God is for us, who can be against us? Now say it with some attitude. If God is for us, who can be against us? Yes. The last thing I want you to know is that I believe in you. I believe in you, and God believes in you, even if you don't. I believe that there is more for you. I believe that there's more in you. I believe that you can do all things in Christ who strengthens you. I believe you are bigger than your fears. You are bigger than your fears, and while there may be tigers out there, there's a lion in you. And I also believe in this church. And I know what it's done for our community is immeasurable. Immeasurable. Here on our 15th anniversary, we're here doing our things, right? We're putting the communion out, and we're cleaning, and we're making welcome packets and greeting people. We have no idea. You have no idea what this place has done for people. You know what it's done for you, but it's done that for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people. I don't think we realize the impact that we've made here. If we could step back and see this legacy, we'd be overcome. And we didn't do it alone. We all did it together. Yet even so, we know there's still so much work to do. Commission is still real. You see, as individuals, we stand, but also as a church, we stand upon our own mountaintop, unsure of what God has on the other side. I don't know what it is, but it's going to be great. I know it's going to be amazing. I know it's going to be wondrous. God's plans always are, y'all. They always are. This is not the first time as a church when we stood on a mountaintop like we talked about earlier. It might be like the 4th or 5th time. But every single time we said no to fear and said yes to God, He provided every time. So we have two ways that we can look at our current place on the mountain. Either we can be paralyzed by the fear, or we can refuse to be crippled by the doubt. We can begin to move forward and be excited about the possibilities that God is laying before us, excited about the new ways that we can offer healing to this community. We have an opportunity. It's ours to take. If we can just take that one step, that one leap of faith, we will see that He will supply our needs. Because God always provides a ramp. Philippians says, "And my God will supply every need of yours according to His riches in glory." So we have a choice. You have a choice. Either be defeated by the tiger, or you can claim victory through the mighty Lion of Judah that's inside you. I made my choice.